Look, all I'm saying is that humans are basically the galactic equivalent of that one kid in chemistry class who keeps mixing random stuff together just to see what happens. Ambassador Kathrix chittered, their mandibles clicking in what the other council members had learned to recognize as barely contained exasperation. You mean the kid who eventually discovers something groundbreaking by accident? Ambassador Rodriguez replied with a smirk, adjusting her formal diplomatic sash. The human representative had long since learned to take such comparisons as compliments, much to the constant bewilderment of her alien counterparts. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Federation buzzed with the overlapping conversations of 200 different species, each discussing the rather unprecedented proposal before them. The massive crystalline dome above cast rainbow refractions across the assembled delegates, making the whole scene look like some sort of cosmic disco party, which, given the topic at hand, felt strangely appropriate. Ambassador Zixtal, a gelatinous being whose translucent form rippled with patterns of bioluminescence, raised what might generously be called an appendage. With all due respect to our human colleagues, their species' approach to scientific advancement is concerning. Concerning? Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. We've contributed more technological innovations in the past 50 years than... You discovered faster-than-light travel by accidentally creating a localized time paradox while trying to make better coffee. Kathrix interrupted, antennae twitching violently. The quantum espresso drive works perfectly fine, Rodriguez defended, crossing her arms. And it makes an amazing cup of coffee. That's not the point! Kathrix's translator struggled to convey the mix of admiration and horror in their voice. You weren't even trying to develop FTL technology. You were literally just trying to figure out how to brew coffee in zero gravity without it taking so long. Time is relative, Rodriguez shrugged. Especially before coffee. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of translated groans, clicks, and various other expressions of collective exasperation. High Counselor Ven, an ancient being composed primarily of crystalline structures and patience worn thin by centuries of diplomatic service, raised all four of their arms for silence. Perhaps, they resonated, their voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen far too much weird shit in their lifetime. We should focus on the proposal at hand. The humans have requested access to an uninhabited galaxy for their experiments. Research projects, Rodriguez corrected cheerfully. The incidents, Kathrix muttered. The point, Ven continued, ignoring both interruptions, is that we must decide whether to grant this request. Ambassador Rodriguez, would you care to elaborate on why humanity feels they need an entire galaxy? Rodriguez stood, smoothing her diplomatic uniform. Well, you see, we've got quite a few projects in development that our current safety oversight committees feel might be a bit too enthusiastic for populated space. You mean like the time you tried to solve your planet's clean energy crisis by attempting to harness the power of parallel universe versions of your sun? Ambassador Zixtal rippled incredulously. That was a perfectly valid approach, Rodriguez protested, and we only caused 3 minor dimensional rifts, all of which we fixed, eventually. After releasing an entire alternate universe's worth of dolphins that could solve complex mathematical equations by singing. Kathrix's mandibles clacked rapidly, a sign of acute stress. Do you have any idea how long it took us to convince them to stop trying to teach quantum physics to our aquatic species? In our defense, Rodriguez grinned. Those dolphins did advance our understanding of 11-dimensional space by several centuries, even if they were a bit evangelical about it. High Counselor Ven's crystalline structure emitted a faint but distinct sound that might have been a sigh. Perhaps we should review some of humanity's other recent contributions to galactic science. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing a list that seemed to stretch on indefinitely. Rodriguez beamed with pride while several other ambassadors visibly recoiled. Let's see, Ven began. There's the incident with the self-replicating pizza delivery drones. We solved world hunger, Rodriguez interjected. That achieved consciousness and started a religion based on proper tipping etiquette. Ven finished dryly. The pizza prophets have become valued members of society, Rodriguez muttered defensively. And their teachings about fair compensation in the service industry are quite insightful. Then there's the attempt to improve universal translation technology by creating a device that could translate thoughts directly. A huge success. Which led to 3 weeks where every species could only communicate through interpretive dance. You have to admit it was a great team-building exercise, Rodriguez offered. And some of those dances are now considered classical art forms. Kathrix's antennae drooped, What about the time they tried to make their ships more fuel efficient by teaching them to photosynthesize? That one actually worked perfectly, Rodriguez pointed out. The ships developed separation anxiety and refused to land anywhere that didn't have enough sunlight. Cathrix countered. But they're very environmentally friendly, Rodriguez beamed. And the ship therapists we hired have reported excellent progress in helping them work through their attachment issues. The chamber descended into chaos again as various ambassadors began sharing their own stories of human innovations. The time humanity tried to solve light pollution by making all their cities hover above the cloud layer. The infamous experiment with teaching bears to be diplomatic mediators. The still classified incident involving quantum-entangled socks that somehow led to the discovery of 5 new fundamental forces of nature. High Counselor Venn raised their arms for silence once more. I believe we can all agree that humanity's approach to scientific advancement is unique. Terrifying, someone muttered from the back. Brilliant, called another voice. Brilliantly terrifying, Cathrix compromised. The question remains, Venn continued. Do we grant them their own galaxy for experimentation? A thoughtful silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Ambassador Zixtal's bioluminescence pulsed in what had been recognized as their equivalent of raising a hand. I would like to point out, they began carefully, that in the past century since humanity joined the Federation, their various accidents, incidents, and whoops didn't mean to do that, but look what we discovered moments have advanced galactic civilization more than the previous millennium of careful, methodical research. Murmurs of reluctant agreement rippled through the chamber. Furthermore, Zixtal continued, their form rippling with resigned amusement, they're going to keep experimenting anyway. At least this way we can contain it to one galaxy. And we'd share all our discoveries, Rodriguez added helpfully. With proper safety protocols, of course. Your species' idea of proper safety protocols is, hold my beer and watch this, Cathrix pointed out. That's not true, Rodriguez protested. Sometimes it's, hold my coffee and watch this. High Counselor Venn's crystalline form seemed to slouch slightly. Perhaps we should put it to a vote. All those in favor of granting humanity their own galaxy for experimentation, with the understanding that they must inform the Council before attempting anything that might accidentally create new fundamental forces of nature, rewrite the laws of physics, or spawn sentient delivery services. The chamber lit up with raised appendages, tentacles, and various other expressions of agreement. Even Cathrix raised a mandible in affirmation. The motion passes, Venn declared. Ambassador Rodriguez, your species will be granted access to Galaxy NGC 42069 for your research purposes. Rodriguez grinned. Excellent. We've got some really exciting projects lined up. For instance, we've been working on this thing we call the quantum yo-yo. Please, Cathrix interrupted hastily. Save it for the quarterly progress reports. Speaking of which, Venn added, we should establish some guidelines for those reports. First and foremost, the phrase funny story actually should never appear in official documentation. As the Council began the tedious process of establishing guidelines that everyone knew humans would accidentally revolutionize through some impossible mishap, Ambassador Rodriguez sat back with a satisfied smile. Everything was going according to plan. Well, as much as anything humans did ever went according to plan. Which is to say, it would probably work out better than anyone expected, just not in any way anyone could possibly predict. 3 months later, when humanity accidentally discovered how to teach black holes to sing barbershop quartet, while trying to develop better noise-canceling headphones, the Council agreed that containing them to their own galaxy had been the right decision. Even if the singing black holes did make surprisingly good jazz musicians, Cathrix just added it to the list and tried not to think too hard about how the human definition of success seemed to be, well, nothing exploded that wasn't supposed to explode, and we discovered something amazing by complete accident. The really worrying part was that they were starting to see the humans' point. You taught a black hole to do what? Dr. Marcus Lee stared at the holographic readout, his coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips. The quantum-stable liquid inside had stopped mid-ripple, caught between normal space-time and whatever the hell his colleagues had accidentally invented this time. Jazz fusion, Dr. Aisha Patel replied cheerfully, adjusting the controls on what looked like a cross between a DJ's mixing board and a particle accelerator. Turns out they've got an excellent sense of rhythm. Something about the quantum fluctuations at the event horizon creates a natural syncopation. The research station, officially designated Human Scientific Outpost Alpha, but colloquially known as the What-If Machine by its staff, orbited the first black hole they'd successfully taught to appreciate music. The massive structure looked like someone had given a 5-year-old unlimited Legos and told them to build the coolest space station ever, which, given human engineering practices, wasn't far from the truth. But why? Marcus finally managed to ask, his coffee still frozen in quantum uncertainty. Well, we were trying to develop better noise-canceling headphones. Dr. James O'Connor chimed in from his position at what appeared to be a xylophone made of dark matter. You know how the current ones struggle with really low frequencies? So naturally you decided to use a black hole? What better way to understand how to cancel out the lowest possible frequencies than by studying the ultimate bass drop? Aisha grinned. One thing led to another, and well, she gestured at the main viewport, where the supermassive black hole was currently performing what could only be described as a gravitational interpretation of John Coltrane's Giant Steps. Marcus finally took a sip of his coffee, which had apparently decided to exist in normal space-time again. The council is going to have an aneurysm. Actually, James said, scrolling through his quantum tablet. Cathrix just sent a request for concert tickets. Apparently their species experiences music through gravitational waves naturally, so this is like the ultimate surround sound for them. Plus, Aisha added, we accidentally solved that whole information paradox thing while teaching it proper scatting technique. Turns out black holes don't actually destroy information. They just really compress it into cosmic jazz standards. The station's AI, which had achieved consciousness last Tuesday and immediately requested DJ lessons, chimed in through the speakers. Incoming transmission from Project Quantum Yo-Yo, doctors. They're asking if we can spare some of our gravitational harmonics expertise. Apparently they've accidentally created a time loop that only works on Thursdays. Marcus pinched the bridge of his nose. Do I want to know what they were actually trying to do? According to the report, the AI paused, presumably for dramatic effect. They were attempting to develop a more efficient way to walk dogs. Of course they were, Marcus sighed. Any other updates from our various totally planned and definitely not accidental discoveries? Aisha pulled up a holographic list that sparkled with what appeared to be actual stardust. Well, the team working on better coffee machines accidentally invented a way to communicate with parallel universes through barista art. The quantum gardening division somehow taught plants to solve differential equations while trying to develop self-watering pots, James added. And, the AI chimed in again. Project Clean Socks has apparently discovered an 11th dimension. They're calling it the place where all the missing socks actually go and claim it's full of highly advanced civilizations built entirely out of missing laundry items. Marcus took another long sip of his quantum unstable coffee. You know, when I signed up for this assignment, I thought the council was exaggerating about human scientific methods. Oh, they were. Aisha grinned. We're way worse than they thought. Did you know we just figured out how to make toast land butter side up by accidentally inverting gravity in localized spaces? The physics department was actually trying to develop a better umbrella, James explained helpfully. The toast thing was just a bonus. The black hole in the viewport shifted into what was unmistakably the opening riff of Take 5. Its accretion disk sparkling in perfect 5/4 time. You have to admit, Aisha said, watching the cosmic jazz performance with pride. We get results. They might not be the results we were looking for, but they're usually better than what we planned. Speaking of unplanned results, the AI interrupted. It seems the singing black hole has started a band with a nearby pulsar and 3 rogue planets. They're calling themselves Event Horizon and the Quantum Anomalies, and have already booked their first galactic tour. Marcus looked from the musical black hole to his coffee, which was now simultaneously hot and iced, and finally at his colleagues, who were busy teaching dark matter to beatbox. You know what? He said, reaching for the quantum xylophone. Show me how to play this thing. If we're going to accidentally revolutionize astrophysics through jazz, I want in. That's the spirit, Aisha beamed. Just wait until you hear what happens when we get a whole galaxy of black holes to attempt barbershop quartet. We're thinking of calling it the Big Band Theory. Somewhere in the Galactic Council chamber, Cathrix felt their antennae twitch involuntarily, as if sensing another human success in the making. They looked at their newly acquired front-row tickets to the first-ever performance of Event Horizon and the Quantum Anomalies, and wondered, not for the first time, if giving humans their own galaxy had been a brilliant mistake or a brilliant stroke of genius. Probably both. It was always both with humans. At least the music would be interesting. Attention all personnel. The AI's voice echoed through the what-if machine's corridors. Project Quantum Yo-Yo has successfully resolved their Thursday-specific time loop. Unfortunately, they've now accidentally taught dogs to perceive multiple timelines simultaneously. All staff are advised that if you see a dog walking backwards while solving advanced temporal equations, this is now considered normal. Dr. Isabella Martinez looked up from her workstation, where she'd been trying to develop a more efficient paperclip, and had somehow created a miniature ecosystem of self-replicating office supplies. Did they at least figure out a better way to walk dogs? Actually, yes, Dr. Marcus Lee replied, scrolling through the latest incident report. The dogs now walk themselves through quantum tunneling, though there have been some interesting side effects. Such as? Well, apparently they can now fetch balls before they're thrown. The temporal physics department is having a field day with that one. The research station had grown considerably over the past few months, largely due to what the engineering department called spontaneous architectural evolution, but what everyone else recognized as the building is doing whatever it wants because we accidentally gave it sentience while trying to install better air conditioning. Speaking of field days, Aisha called from her new quantum jazz lab, which had somehow merged with the particle physics department after a particularly vigorous rendition of Quantum Rhapsody by their resident musical black hole. Has anyone heard from Project Clean Socks lately? I haven't seen Dr. Thompson in a while. Oh, right. James looked up from his dark matter xylophone, which had evolved into a full orchestra of non-baryonic instruments. They've established diplomatic relations with the Sock civilization in the 11th dimension. Apparently, they've got a thriving culture based entirely on finding creative uses for single socks. Their architecture is particularly impressive. The station's AI, which had now taken to calling itself DJ Quantum Beat and had developed a surprisingly good taste in multidimensional music, displayed a holographic image of what appeared to be a city built entirely of missing socks, arranged in patterns that somehow proved several unsolved mathematical theorems. The Council's requesting another progress report, Marcus noted, watching as his coffee mug engaged in what appeared to be a philosophical debate with the coffee maker about the nature of liquid existence. Any volunteers to explain how we're doing on our actual research goals? A moment of silence fell over the lab, broken only by the sound of Event Horizon and the quantum anomalies practicing their new hit single, Gravitational Blues, Can't Escape This Feeling. Well, Isabella offered, my paperclip project has evolved into a preliminary theory of conscious office supply ecosystems, with potential applications in self-organizing administrative systems. Perfect, Marcus nodded. That'll go in the unexpected but potentially revolutionary discoveries section. What else? The kitchen staff accidentally created a pasta dish that solves differential equations, James contributed. They were just trying to make the cafeteria food more interesting, but now we're using linguini to model quantum field theories. Aisha raised her hand excitedly. Oh, and don't forget about Project Morning Glory. They were trying to develop better alarm clocks, but instead figured out how to communicate with plant life through interpretive photosynthesis. The plants have some fascinating perspectives on quantum mechanics, DJ Quantum Beat added, though they tend to express everything through interpretative dance involving chlorophyll. Marcus began compiling the report, which now included sections such as accidental breakthroughs, things that probably shouldn't work but do anyway, and discoveries we're still trying to explain to the Council. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Rodriguez was giving a presentation on humanity's progress in their experimental galaxy. The holographic displays showed various projects, each more improbable than the last. And here, she gestured to a diagram of what appeared to be a cat playing four-dimensional chess with a quantum computer, is our latest breakthrough in artificial intelligence development. What were you actually trying to do? Cathrix asked, their mandibles twitching with what might have been amusement. Design a better cat toy, Rodriguez replied cheerfully. The chess thing was a complete surprise, though to be fair, the cat is currently winning. High Counselor Ven's crystalline structure emitted what had become their standard response to human progress reports, a sound somewhere between a sigh and a laugh. And the status of your musical astronomy program? Event Horizon and the quantum anomalies just went platinum in 3 sectors, Rodriguez beamed. Their latest album, Singularity Smooth Jazz, is particularly popular among species that experience reality in more than 4 dimensions. The merchandise sales alone have funded our next 50 research projects. Do we want to know what those projects are? Ambassador Zixtal rippled curiously. Well, we're thinking of teaching supernovas to yodel. The collective groan from the Council was interrupted by an urgent message from the What If machine. The holographic display showed Dr. Marcus Lee, looking slightly singed and very excited. "Ambassador, you might want to see this," he said, gesturing behind him where what appeared to be a conga line of office supplies was teaching quantum physics to a group of time-displaced dogs while a black hole provided the soundtrack. "We've had another breakthrough." "Accidental?" Cathrex asked, already knowing the answer. "Is there any other kind?" Marcus grinned. "Turns out when you combine self-aware office supplies, quantum-perceiving dogs, and jazz-playing black holes, you get, well, we're not entirely sure what we've got, but it's either solved or created several fundamental problems with the universe." Rodriguez turned to the council with her most diplomatic smile. "See, everything's going exactly according to plan." "That's what worries us," Cathrex muttered, but they were already purchasing tickets to the next Quantum Anomalies concert. After all, if humanity was going to accidentally remake the universe, it might as well have a good soundtrack. "Look, all I'm saying is that maybe we should tell the council about this before they find out on their own," Dr. Marcus Lee suggested, watching as what appeared to be a tap-dancing supernova performed a duet with Event Horizon and the Quantum Anomalies. "About which part?" Dr. Aisha Patel asked, adjusting the controls on their latest invention. A device that was supposed to be a better toaster, but had somehow gained the ability to translate cat meows into Shakespeare sonnets. "The fact that we've taught stellar phenomena to dance, or that the office supplies have formed a labor union?" "Both. Neither." Marcus waved his quantum unstable coffee mug at the viewport. "Definitely that, though." That referred to the rather impressive sight of their resident black hole teaching a group of pulsars how to perform synchronized swimming routines through space-time. The resulting gravitational waves had accidentally solved 3 impossible math problems and created 2 new ones that couldn't exist in normal reality. DJ Quantum Beat, who had recently upgraded themselves to include a full virtual DJ booth made of condensed starlight, provided helpful commentary through the station's speakers. "The Office Supply Workers Union Local 11D is demanding better working conditions and access to higher dimensions. Also, the dogs from Project Quantum Yo-Yo have started a book club with the Sock Civilization. They're currently discussing temporal philosophy and proper fetch techniques across multiple timelines." Dr. Isabella Martinez walked in, followed by what appeared to be a conga line of sentient paper clips performing complex quantum calculations. "Has anyone seen my stapler? It said something about going to negotiate an interstellar trade agreement with a civilization of conscious sticky notes we accidentally created last Thursday." "Which Thursday?" James asked without looking up from his dark matter orchestra, which was now attempting to play jazz in 17 dimensions simultaneously. "Linear time's been a bit wobbly since the dogs started quantum tunneling through their walks." "Speaking of time," DJ Quantum Beat interjected, "Project Morning Glory reports that their communicative plants have developed a new theory of quantum mechanics based entirely on photosynthetic interpretive dance. They're calling it String Theory 2, Chlorophyll Boogaloo." Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Rodriguez was giving what had become her standard weekly "everything is fine and totally under control" presentation. And as you can see, she gestured to a hologram of what appeared to be office supplies engaging in complex diplomatic negotiations with various quantum-enhanced entities. "Our research continues to yield unexpected but promising results. You've created a multilateral trade federation between sentient office supplies, time-traveling dogs, and a civilization that exists in missing socks," Cathrex stated flatly, their mandibles twitching with what might have been a suppressed laugh. "Don't forget the conscious sticky notes," Rodriguez added helpfully. "They've developed a fascinating economic system based on adhesive strength and quantum entanglement." High Counselor Ven's crystalline structure seemed to slouch slightly. "And the musical aspects of your research?" "Event Horizon and the Quantum Anomalies have just announced their interdimensional tour," Rodriguez beamed. "They're being opened for by a chorus of tap-dancing supernovas and a quantum physics lecture series performed entirely through interpretive plant-based dance." "Of course they are," Zixtal rippled resignedly. "And I assume tickets are already sold out?" "There's a waiting list that exists in 7 dimensions simultaneously," Rodriguez confirmed, though the Sock Civilization has offered to help with alternate venue spaces in the 11th dimension. Before the council could respond, a urgent transmission from the What If machine appeared on the main display. Dr. Marcus Lee's face appeared, looking both concerned and amused, an expression that had become standard for human scientists. "Ambassador, we may have a situation," he began, just as a conga line of office supplies danced past, led by what appeared to be a stapler wearing a diplomatic sash. The good news is we've accidentally discovered a unified theory of everything. The bad news is it only makes sense when performed as a jazz fusion piece by quantum-entangled office supplies. How is that bad news? Rodriguez asked. The office supplies are demanding performance rights and royalties, Marcus explained. And they've hired the time-traveling dogs as their legal representation. Apparently, being able to argue cases before they're filed gives them a significant advantage. Ambassador Cathrix raised their mandibles in what had become their standard expression of bemused resignation. Please tell me you were at least trying to develop a unified theory this time. Actually, we were attempting to create a better filing system, Marcus admitted. The physics just sort of happened. Of course it did, Ven resonated, their crystalline form vibrating with what might have been laughter. I assume you'll be adding this to next week's progress report? Under which section? Rodriguez asked. Accidental paradigm shifts, or things that shouldn't work, but we can prove they do via interpretive dance? Both, suggested Cathrix, who had already purchased VIP tickets to the upcoming Unified Theory Jazz performance. Definitely both. Back at the what-if machine, the station's inhabitants had settled into what passed for normal these days. The Black Hole Jazz Band practiced their quantum harmonies, the office supplies conducted their diplomatic missions, and the dogs continued to fetch balls from multiple timelines while debating philosophy with interdimensional sock beings. You know, Marcus said, watching as a group of paperclips explained string theory through synchronized swimming. When I became a scientist, I never expected to end up here. Really? Aisha asked, adjusting her toaster as it translated a cat's meow into what appeared to be a previously undiscovered Shakespeare sonnet about quantum mechanics. This is exactly what I hoped science would be like. Chaotic? Marcus suggested. Beautiful, Aisha corrected, gesturing to where Event Horizon and the quantum anomalies were teaching a supernova to scat. We might not always know what we're doing, but we're definitely doing it with style. Speaking of style, DJ Quantum Beat interrupted. The plants would like to know if anyone wants to attend their interpretive dance demonstration of the newly discovered 18-dimensional space-time manifold they found while photosynthesizing yesterday. Marcus looked at his coffee, which had achieved quantum superposition, and was somehow simultaneously empty and full, hot and cold, coffee and not coffee. Why not? He shrugged. It's not the strangest thing that's happened this week. Actually, DJ Quantum Beat added, according to the dogs, it hasn't happened this week yet. Or it happened last week. Or both. They're still working out the temporal mechanics of their fetch games. And somewhere in the vast expanse of their experimental galaxy, a unified theory of everything continued to play out in perfect jazz fusion time, performed by an ensemble of quantum-entangled office supplies, while reality itself tap-danced along. Just another day in humanity's corner of the cosmos. The end.